Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I'm going to be watching Akon, the African singer, on Logan Paul's podcast, talk about God. And actually, in this video, Akon is going to give Logan a cosmological argument. And since I wrote a book about cosmological arguments for dummies, let's see what happens. So let's go.
I mean, obviously, there's such beauty and value in spirituality and religion.
It is.
It's just perhaps maybe why some of it's being lost is I mean, again, we're in the scientific revolution, and a lot of the scientific developments and advancements and conversations that are being had now that were never had before, where acts of God can now be explained by science.
Right.
And the amount of holes that can be poked in certain religions makes it harder for certain people to have that blind faith.
Absolutely.
If they don't.
I agree with Logan to have a blind faith. This would be very difficult because there are religions which are clearly going against the empirical evidence of this world. So, Logan probably doesn't understand the Islamic paradigm. Like, what are you talking about? And science tries to explain things, but it can never give you the truth. It can never tell you this is how, or this is what's happening. It can just observe the fact, or it can just tell you Big Bang, but it doesn't say anything like, okay, who created that? Or, so science is not really against religion. I think this is like a switch in many people's heads that they have to kind of switch.
Don't have an experience themselves, if they're not having that daily conversation with whatever God they're worshiping, if they're not receiving the fruits of their...
There's only one God, and Muhammad is his final messenger and prophet. Shahada.
Receiving the fruits of their labor. Man, life's hard. Life's hard. And how much faith can you put into a thing that you're not sure of now?
See, that's the key. The key is not...
You're not sure of now. That's the key, Akon says. I understand what he's trying to say, because I know some people have a belief in God like this, like really, really small, because they just haven't thought it through. But let's watch what Akon's gonna say.
Not really to put the faith in the thing. Like, see, growing up in Africa, we just saw things differently.
It's not about the putting faith in a thing. I just want to pause on that, because this is already from Islamic history. There are a couple of imams. I'm not sure. Imam Yujuji, somebody like that from Morocco. He already used this kind of argument, like, let's not discuss if God exists. Let's discuss this world exists. How did this world begin to exist? How did the existence? Who explains the existence? There are contingent things. There are necessary things. Okay, how did these contingent things come to being, such as this mouse? So this is the logic behind going to God. You have to explain reality, you have to explain truth, you have to explain existence, because we all exist. And so you have to kind of go somewhere with that. You can't stop halfway through. So most people like Logan haven't thought it through, so they just say science, well, and then kind of like awkward, and that's it. And no, we know, for example, everything that exists has a cause. So what caused this to exist? And you can do many philosophical, we can do many logical, deductive arguments that come to a single point, which is independent, doesn't have a cause, doesn't have a beginning. And it is a thing that everything depends upon, and that is Allah, and Islam is true. So this is what Akon's gonna say. Let's see. By the way, he's a Muslim, so.
And then growing up from a rural standpoint, you see it even more different, right? Whenever I get to the point where I have to question myself if God exists, I always go back to when I was young. And I have these conversations with my grandpa, because he was very influential in me being spiritual. He said, always think about life. How did it start? That tells you everything you need to know. Who created the sun? Who created the stars? And that tells you everything, because we know man didn't create that. Okay, let's say an alien created that. Okay, who created the alien then?
Like the Big Bang thing is like the whole thing, but like,
right?
Who pushed the fucking button, bro? You're telling me just from nothingness there was this.
There was something. Something had to start somewhere.
There was somethingness.
Thank you.
Is impossible,
so,
bro.
Damn. Yes, we have three possibilities. It either came from nothing, the Big Bang, which he just said it's impossible because from nothing comes. Or it came from something else, which Akon said. Maybe the aliens created this, but who created the aliens? They are also contingent. They are not all-knowing, necessary beings. Somebody had to create them. So who created the aliens? Or this can be applied to multiverse. Another universe created this universe. Okay, who created this universe? Because it doesn't explain. This universe doesn't explain the next one, because that's always a question. Who created this universe? Because the universe is just a name for things within it. And these are all contingent. So the next question is, okay, so we have either explanation from nothing, doesn't make sense, or the universe gave birth to itself, like the universe created itself. Well, this is a contradiction. It's like saying, I created myself, which I didn't. So the universe can't create itself because it's not conscious. It doesn't have, the universe isn't a thing. The universe is just these stars and all these. We just gave it name like universe or nature, but nature doesn't actually, like you can't, what is nature? Is tree a nature? Is a lake a nature? No, like it's just a label we put on it. The universe is all things contingent. So contingent things cannot explain itself. They depend on something else for explanation. Do you get that? So even the universe, another universe, multiverse, virtual reality, simulation, aliens are all contingent. They don't explain the existence. So we cannot depend on contingent things, because this would be infinite regress of events, infinite regress of explanations. And if I have infinite regress, this moment wouldn't exist, because there wouldn't be no moment. It would just go forever. However, this moment exists, so we know somebody had to pull the trigger. We know there was a beginning to the universe through empiricism. We know the Big Bang is well established. Through philosophical arguments, already Aristotle knew the universe had to have a beginning, because you can't have infinite chain of events, blah, blah, blah. You wouldn't have this moment. So we knew something happened, something created the universe. So the universe is not infinite, and it hasn't been created by something else, and it also didn't create itself, and it's also not created from something. Well, what's the other option? Most people say, well, we just don't know. Why do you jump to conclusions? Hey, wait a second. Nothing, something, that's it. There's really no other option. Like, you can't come up with other options, bro. Just think about it. Stop being so limited by your brain. There is no other option. The universe was created by something which is not contingent by definition, because otherwise the contingent thing would have to explain itself. So it had to be necessary. The necessary being, the necessary thing, doesn't have a beginning, because if it did have a beginning, it would have to be created by something else. So it has been there forever, eternity, eternal thing. But it's not part of the universe. It's not part of the creation itself, because if it was part of the creation, it would be bound by space and time and all these things, which it created through Big Bang. The time was created in the first, I think, Planck second or whatever. So there's no time, there's no space, let's say, there's no like all these labels we have here in this universe. So that thing is out there, and everything depends on it, because it didn't have a beginning. And it explains perfectly everything else. It explains perfectly how did the universe begin, through that thing. Now you can ask, does this being has an intelligence? Is there a will? Is there an intention? Is there actual purpose of life? Was this? So those are secondary questions. Once you establish, like, yeah, I think this cause, this independent cause, or the uncaused cause exists because there's no other explanation. So once you get to that point, once you accept there is a cause behind the universe, which should be quite easy if you are open-minded. Most people say religious people are closed-minded. Dude, you are closed-minded if you don't accept this. So you are open-minded, you accept there's an uncaused cause. Now you can debate, okay, does this cause have a will? But you have just left atheism. At this point, you are a theist. You get that? Once you become convinced of this thought, hey, there's actually intelligence, there are DNA samples, there's design in the universe, there are physics, there are laws which don't change, they are set in place. This tells us there's a design, there's like an intelligence behind this. This isn't random. There's an intention. This intention has a will. So this thing there's a consciousness, there's something there that's driving this series of events. Now, okay, what does this thing want? What is the purpose of my life then? Does this thing control everything or what? And now we get to the question, which religion is true? They all talk about this thing, which religion is true? And here Islam can win because it's clearly the only one talking about independent cause behind everything. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Say Allah is one and only. He doesn't begin nor he ends. He doesn't have a son, and he's beyond everything you can imagine. That's the definition, what I just described. He doesn't begin, doesn't have a cause. And there are many attributes like that in the Quran. None of the other scriptures have this description. They all attribute things to God which make it contingent. Let's say they say God of war. Okay, now we have God in presence on earth. That limits the attributes of God. Now, how do I explain the attribute of God in the creation? Okay, that's clearly impossible. That's not right. Jesus Christ, man on earth. Okay, is he God? How can God be limited by his creation? Okay, again, contradiction. Bam, goodbye. Nice idea. Hinduism, bam, goodbye. All these things we can simply and just get to the Tawheed, get to the one God. And that's the truth. Hopefully that made sense. If you want, you can download my book explaining all these arguments without ever using the Quran, without ever talking about Islam. Purely logic. And Akon is basically, they're just talking about the same thing. It's the same thing, just a dumber discussion. But Logan doesn't want to accept it. He's still the scientific thing. The other guy, Mike, he understands it can be from nothing. And this depends on your intention in your heart. Like, are you willing to search for the truth even if it leads you to uncomfortable places? Or do you just want the truth that suits your whims and desires? Because let's be honest, most people don't want the truth. Most people want to live their life how they live it. They don't want to change it. They don't want to dress differently. They don't want to submit to the will of all-knowing God. No, they want to think, I can live like I want. Like, why do I stop drinking? Like, what? So then if you have this mindset, then don't worry. Like, you're not going to find God. You're not going to understand these arguments, because these arguments lead you to God, essentially. This is how God leads people to himself. And then you become spiritual. You become more conscious of God. And that's how you become, that's when you achieve Islam.
Be creative.
Right.
Like, whenever you in doubt, just think about that, and it'll bring you all the way back again. Because you can't explain that.
I think, though, a part of the
It's true. You can't explain the sun. You can't explain your own body. You can't explain the universe. And you can't explain life, how life began. What's the first cell? The first cell had to be very complicated. Who put it here? Like, there's no way to explain this through chemical soup. All these arguments are not really well thought out. So that's it.
reason why people may land on God or want to believe that something did start from nothing is because we want explanations. Our species wants answers.
That's why they call it faith.
It's
That's
why
exactly why they.
We want explanations. Yeah, but by definition, necessarily, you explain everything in your life. Like, you want explanations for why do I have to go to work? Why do I have to do this? So when you look at your life as an objective, like you zoom out, you look at your life. Well, what's the purpose of my life? Well, I live in this world. Okay, who created it? I want an explanation. This is natural. Like, kids are born with this knowledge of seeking causal ends. This has been proven by scientific research. I'm not sure which one, but kids actually want to ask, like, why? So they're seeking causal ends. This is built within us. So nothing wrong with that. It's actually biologically rooted.
God of faith.
dude, it's hard to
That's
not
why.
know why
Right.
we're here and what we're doing. That's kind
It's
of
really,
depressing.
it's really Plato.
I want an
It's-
answer.
It's Plato.
What are we doing here? How did we get here?
But that's what I'm saying. Humans, we're nosy creatures by nature.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
We need to know.
It's kind of depressing. It's completely depressing. I remember as an atheist, I had a good life, but I was completely empty and depressed. I had no idea what I'm doing on the objective macro level, even though daily my life maybe looks the same. But I know what I'm going. I know what's gonna happen when I die, and I know the purpose of my life now. I've been knowing these things for 3 years almost. It's a completely different life than when I didn't know the purpose of my life. I didn't know what's gonna happen when I die, and I didn't know where I'm going. And I didn't know how I got here. So it was a very difficult, depressed existence.
How did we get here?
But that's what I'm saying. Humans, we're nosy creatures by nature.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
We need to know. Like our
Yeah.
brain is exactly. It goes back to AI again. What makes it relevant is the fact that it wants to learn, it needs to learn, it has to learn, and we're that. Like we are that. This is why we're creating machines. And we're thinking, okay, it needs to teach itself. Like, this is who we are. We don't know how to take that away, but that's also a part of our DNA and our creation and what makes us the most, dominant species on Earth.
Yep.
Because we actually have that, right?
Yep.
So, like, look at the human species. Like, how the fuck is my heart beating? Like,
It's-
how am
it's-
I breathing, like, and blinking
It's
without even
virtually
realizing it's
impossible.
happening?
It's impossible.
Right. And the
but we're
question
here.
is,
So you can reflect on the creation of the universe, or you can reflect on your own body, on the way that you are watching, thinking at the same time, breathing, eating, digesting, without ever doing any of that. It's just done for you, bro. You got it for free. That's why it's not your body. No, your body, your choice. It's not your body. You don't even control it. And yeah, just reflecting on, like, who's giving me my ideas, how my brain works, all these things. Like, was I really born? Like, was I a sperm? And then I became into existence. Like, what? This is too crazy to believe in. This is insane. I was 9 months in my mom. Then I came to existence. Through 3 layers of darkness, I was there. Then I came through the passage of urine twice. And now I'm here making YouTube videos. Isn't that insane? But that's what happened. If you told me when I was in the belly of my mom, like, hey, you're gonna make videos on YouTube, I wouldn't believe you.
We're here,
question
and
is,
we're doing it.
going back to faith again, how do you answer that? You can't.
I could try.
Right, you can try, but the answer won't be accurate. So it goes back to the things we can't explain are real. We just can't explain it because we aren't built to.
Yeah, the things you can't explain, as he said, are real. Like the reality is the universe is expanding. The reality is there's dark matter in the universe. The reality is it has been created 13.7 billion years ago. It's very difficult to grasp your head around these concepts, but it's real. What about the particles in physics which appear and disappear when you look at them? Well, what's that about? So there's so many things that are inexplainable in this universe, and we just have to live with it. So that's it.
And also, like, I can't think of anything more depressing and more inducing of mental illness than the idea that spirituality or magic or love or any of those things that aren't logically explainable do not exist.
Do not exist.
That makes me, and I've gotten there in my life many times, many fucking times. I've been on death's door, down ICU, felony charges in court, whatever the fuck, where I'm like, okay, this is it. And that feeling of just hard surface,
Like lone despair.
void
almost.
of that
Purpose and-
purpose and magic in life is
So that's hard materialism. That's where I was. Basically, you reduce everything to atoms and molecules, but by definition, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because if you disregard love, sacrifice, human emotions and nature, you're neglecting the things that make you human. You're just becoming more like a machine. Essentially, why do you have a wife? Like, if you would live like this, why do you not cheat? Why do you have to take care of your children? Like, people who, like, there are atheists who, like, love this argument, but they still live in a different way of life. Like, if you like this argument, live by it. Like Schopenhauer, like Nietzsche. And don't be a hypocrite. Like, I'm a Muslim, I'm gonna live like a Muslim. I'm not gonna live like an atheist and claim to be a Muslim. You're an atheist, live like it. Be nihilistic. Reduce everything to materialism. There is no God, there is no love, there is nothing, but there is also no justice. What is justice? It's a moral. There is no morality, there is no right and wrong. We are just molecules. This is a social construct, morality, according to atheists. So stop using moral arguments. Stop using moral arguments. What's right and wrong? Oh, this is right, this is wrong. No, there's nothing right and wrong according to your worldview. Ha ha ha. There's no justice. Ha ha ha. We have Ministry of Justice. Why? Because all these concepts are coming from religion, and materialism is trying to superimpose itself on it, but it's not working because people naturally feel these things. They are born with them. It's in our fitra, in our nature. But it's just this nasty material world is trying to just create these feelings. But we'll see who wins. All right, guys. So I liked the interview. It was, but there was some kufri shirki statement. Ignore them. Leave Akon alone. But this was a good interview. Leave me a comment below. What did you think about Akon? And what do you think about all these arguments? Anyways, let's stay in touch. This is Jan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you. Goodbye. Good night.